Anyway, I've been thinking about conversations with my brother. And one in particular conversation involved a mate of mine. You have met him before. I used to race outfits with him. He was vertically challenged, I think is the polite term people use. I think that's just as insulting as saying he was short and round myself, but that might be just me. But anyway, he was he was a funny lad. I don't mean funny as in a funny lad. I mean he was a lad and he was funny. He always made us laugh. But anyway, he bought a Suzuki GS850, and he could barely, well, he couldn't touch the floor on it. He used to have to get off or hang off one side whenever he had to stop at traffic lights and stuff. And then he perfected the art of flicking the side stand down and getting it to rest on the side stand. Quite a skill really, because I don't know if you know the GS850. It was a big brute of a bike. I had one, but that's another story. But anyway, he had this GS850, and we used to, as I'm sure kids do nowadays, we used to go off in great gangs off to race meetings and stuff, and camping and all sorts of things. He had a girlfriend who was short but not round as well. But anyway, we were going to, I believe it was Silverstone, which was quite a long way from Yorkshire in those days. Even on a big bike like a GS850, there was a whole gang of us. Anyway, we got going, and of course, when you used to go off for the weekend for the racing, you used to have to take a tent. Oh, just knocked my camera, sorry about that. You used to have to take a tent and all the camping gear and everything. So anyway, we'd load up all these bikes and what have you, and the Suzuki GS850, it was a bit of a hippo. It used to wallow, suspension was soft as butter. And so we get going, and by the time we've got through town, and what's going on here? Car just stopped randomly. Oh, it's waiting for petrol. Oh no, Jesus, that other car went to overtake it. Oh, we haven't got another fuel crisis, have we? That's looking a bit busy. Anyway, so we set off all loaded up with our birds on our back. Sorry, is that sexist to say that? That's what we used to call them. I'm going round to see my bird. Anyway, with our girlfriends, with our young ladies on the back. And one thing became apparent to my mate, was that whenever he stopped now with his girlfriend on the back and all the camping gear and all the food for the weekend and the cans of beer and what have you, he could actually touch tiptoes. Yeah, so if you can imagine this little short dumpy kid on this great big wallowing GS850, he could just about balance it, tiptoes, just on tiptoes. And given how good he'd got at, you know, sliding off one side and flicking the side stand down and stuff, it was a doddle for him. Very well balanced. Anyway, I don't know how far we'd gone, but it must have been a fair while, because it had a pretty big tank on it. Did the GS, and we eventually pulled into a petrol station, and by this time he was really well settled into using his feet, being able to put his feet down. So he pulls up to the petrol pump, and we're behind him, and he stops to sorry, I'm laughing at my own funniness. And he stopped to fill up his bike, and as he stopped, down his little legs popped, balancing the bike on his tiptoes. His girlfriend climbs off. Well, his girlfriend, she didn't weigh very much, but she was obviously just tipping the balance, and as she climbed off, the suspension came up. And as the suspension came up, you just saw his little legs flailing about, and the bike fell up. I shouldn't laugh, but the bike fell over and he was stuck underneath. It wasn't on him, because it was wedged on like the, you know, the sort of curb bit the petrol thing's on. Yeah, hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But this story came to mind partly because of the story about the racing of the outfits that I used to do with him, and partly because I was talking with my brother about swapsies, and oh, there's so many stories to come from this. But anyway, I had an RG250, and the whole scenario of how I came to have this RG250 is another thing, and it requires a whole story of itself. But anyway, I had this RG250 Gamma, Suzuki RG250 Gamma. If you don't know what one is, it was a cracking bike. It really was. Only bettered by the RG500, I think. And I think they go for quite a lot of money nowadays. 2-stroke, liquid cooled. Woo woo woo. Did it go? Did it handle? You know, for those days, it was marvellous. Anyway, I had this RG250, and my brother went out and he bought this GS 850, same as my mates. It's very busy, isn't it? So anyhow, yeah, so my brother had bought this GS 850, and I had this Gamma, and for some reason, and I can't remember what, but my brother, knowing what my brother was like, he was very talented with his tongue, very talented, and he must have planted a seed in my head, but I ended up swapping my RG250 for this great wallowing lump of a bike, this GS 850. It must have been the size of it that impressed me, I don't know, or maybe my brother had surreptitiously said to me, "Ah, you look like a great gangly, lanky, don't know what on that gamma, you need something bigger. He could have easily done that and put it in my head that that's what I needed to do, was to get something bigger. And what more, I don't think there was a bigger bike out. Even the GS1000 must have quaked in the wake of a GS850 with its shaft drive. Anyway, I did do the swap. I was persuaded, and we swapped, yeah. And I was out on this GS850. We'd only swapped by about a week. He'd only had it about a week and clearly realised that it was in fact a hippopotamus on wheels, and decided to offload it to me. So I was there waiting at a corner. It did sound lovely, I've got to say that, it did sound lovely. There I am giving it wah 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 as you do at a corner, and set off, and the bloody back wheel locked up. Completely locked up. Well, I went arse over tit, and I was not impressed. I was laid in the road, managed to get up. My bike was laid in the middle of this junction with all the traffic around us, and I couldn't lift the bloody thing up. It was just horrendous. Finally, a bloke gave me a hand and we got it up, and we couldn't shift it. The back wheel, we had to drag it off the road, and anyway, in the end, I got hold of my brother, and he got hold of the garage he'd bought it from, and they were very apologetic about it. Crikey, it's windy here. They were very apologetic about it. Transit Motorcycles, they was called, in York. They took it back and they fixed it. And what had happened was a nut inside the shaft, inside the back wheel hub, had come off, and yeah, and just locked the shaft, completely locked it. But they repaired it and it was alright. I didn't keep it long after that. They wasn't impressed with that at all. But all that mutter, that came from that conversation with my brother.